Hey everyone, welcome to another top 10 list. This week's top 10 list is on a subject I've been hearing a lot about lately, and well, maybe you'll be surprised at what is and what isn't on the list. This week is the top 10 star notes in my collection. Now, like I said, there's been a lot of talk about star notes because star notes are going away. So everybody's buying star notes, everybody's hoarding star notes, and I'm going to tell everybody take a step back, relax. There are hundreds of millions of star notes out there. So you can go to the bank and you can still buy straps and you can still find stars. Don't buy them. People are asking ridiculous amounts of money for them with the thought of them going to be exploding in value. And that's just not the case. My example for that would be web notes. Everybody back in 1988 through 1995 knew what a web note was, and those that were collecting hoarded web notes. To this day, I know dealers that have hundreds of uncirculated web notes that they can't sell, and web notes sell for about $15 right now. So they've been holding on to web notes since 1995, and they've gone up from $1 to $15. Imagine holding 100 singles from 1995 to now. That's 30 years. 30 years they've been holding on to these notes and they can't sell them. Imagine if there were millions more than that. Um, so yeah, star notes. Star notes aren't really that rare. I mean, on average, you find one out of every 100. But yeah, I don't expect their prices to go through the roof. I expect con men to try to sell you stars for ridiculous prices, but just go to the bank and find them. So you're not going to find any modern stars on my top 10 list. But let's dive into what are some actual stars that are worth some money. All right, starting off with an honorable mention. Starting off here, this is an 1869 $1 legal tender, and you can clearly see there is a star on this note. The reason I've got this note on the list is because of that star, but the reason why it's only an honorable mention is because when they did the 1869 Rainbow Series, every single note had a star. That's just the way they ended it. They had a letter in the front from the print run, so they knew how many times they've gone through the numbers, and then they ended with a star just so they'd have something at the end. So yeah, the 1869 series, if you see someone trying to tell you that an 1869 star note must be worth even more than a regular note, no, not the case. All of the 1869s end in a star. So does it have a star? Yes. Is it a star note? No, not a replacement note, but it's still a cool star. No additional value for that, though. All right, number 10. Number 10 this week is the coolest star I've ever found in circulation. This star note, it's not from a rare print run or anything like that, but it does have a fancy serial number. 00200200. It is a binary radar, and it's got zeros and twos. And of course, it's on a star. So you've got a fancy serial and you've got a star note. This is the kind of thing that collectors are going to look for. If this was a random star note, random number here from 2021, you're not going to get anything severely overfaced. Someone might try to get $2 or $3 for it. But when you find a fancy serial number, an actual fancy serial number, not a trinary or anything like that, when you find an actual fancy serial number, a binary radar, yeah, that could be worth some money. I am not big into the fancy serial number game. I do not buy or sell fancy serial numbers, but I do know that this is most certainly going to be worth additional money. How much? I really couldn't say. 50, 100, 150, 200, I don't know. No idea. I just know I found it in circulation and I know that this is cool. That's number 10. Number 9. I went on a hunt trying to find a Hawaii note. You can see the brown seal. It says Hawaii on the back. It's got the Hawaii overprint. I wanted to find a star Hawaii note. Now, In a grade 8, these are about $175. Just to give you an idea of range, even in a grade 20, they're about $350. So when you're talking about rare notes, well, think about that. This particular note from World War II, how many stars did they actually print? Not many. But how many of the regular notes did they actually print? Once again, there aren't a lot of Hawaii notes to start with. I mean, you're talking 40, 50, 60, $80 on the regular notes, and, even more if they're in good condition. So for this to only be worth double that, well, that should let you know about stars. If the regular note is $80 and the star note's 175, well, keep that in mind. But anyway, I do happen to have a Hawaii star note from the emergency currency of World War II. That is number 9. Number 8. If I'm going to have one, I'm going to have the other. This is the North Africa star note. North Africa star note from World War II. Once again, this was from the European theater, and also not in the greatest of shape. It corresponds with my Hawaii note very well. They're in similar condition. The North Africa notes sell for a little more. The Hawaii notes start off at about 175. The North Africas are about 185 as a starting point in grade 8. And once again, when you consider that a North Africa note that isn't a star is going to sell for $40 to $80, and the star note sells for $185, well, do you see how it's only 2x, 3x, So don't go nuts with modern stars. It's not the case. With people saying they're going to go away and that's going to drive up the price, really, like I said, the price is driven up on these because they went away a long time ago, and yet it's only double what the regular notes are worth. So once again, I just want to make sure that that's embedded in everybody's mind. That's number 8. Number 7, I've got a $1 solid star error. Now, if you look, that star is completely filled in. You guys hear me talking about the solid star error a lot. A lot of times when they print the numerals, sometimes they overprint them and you're going to see a darker number, you're going to see a thicker number, and that can happen with the star as well. The problem is when the lines, like on this side, that make the star, when those are printed thicker, the last portion to ever possibly get filled in would be dead center. So sometimes you get a star that looks partially filled. That's not an error. Because the error has to do with the reason why nothing is printed there to begin with. And that's because there's a void. But sometimes that gets plugged up. Sometimes either the die itself just didn't have that cut out, or that gets plugged up with lint or paper. And what happens then is you get the center being printed just as dark as the rest of the note. That's what makes a solid star error. That is why a partially filled star isn't worth anything. A partially filled star is not a filled star. So that's what you're looking for, the filled star. And this one's on a $1 note. I happen to have found this one and sent it in for grading. It did get the solid star error designation. That's what I was looking for. I don't know what they are worth off the top of my head. I've not seen a book, so keep your eyes peeled. They're out there. That's number 7, 10987. Number 6, along the same lines, here's a $5 also solid star. And if you look there is the regular star. And if we go to the other side, you can see that is the solid star. So you can find these in various denominations. It's not just on the one. That's why it's an error. But once again, you're not looking for the partially filled star. That doesn't mean anything. If there's any white showing, not part of the error. I'll take a peek at the back of this one. This one's in really nice shape. Exceptional paper quality, graded 64. And for those of you wondering, the reason it got the 64, look at the top border, how thick that is. Look at the bottom border, how thin that is. This is not a cutting error. This note is off-center. Okay, and because it's off-center, it lowered the grade. If this was properly centered, it would have got a 65, 66, something like that. But because it's off-center, it got a 64. So for those of you saying that notes with a thin border are worth more, no. If this note had a regular border, it would have been worth more. All right, so that's number 6. Number 5. This was a surprise. This is a 1935G silver certificate. Yeah, I can talk. 1935G silver certificate. And it is a star, of course. And the 35G series is the special series because some of the notes have In God We Trust and some of them do not. It's the transitional series. And looking at this note, I mean, this note is beautiful, but once again, look how thin the bottom is, how thick the top is, and it's only marginally so, but it is noticeable to the eye. If you look at the back, you can see the top is much thicker than the bottom. So because it was off cut like that, once again, graded 64. If it was centered properly, it would have got the 65. Normally, these silver certificates, this particular one, even in lower grade, you're talking 10, 15, 20, $30, somewhere in that range for this particular star. But this one is a high grade star. And because of that, this 35, if it graded 63, it would be, what is it, $175. And at a 65, it's $250. So, I mean, if we look at the back, they had the price on here at $235, so which is right between that $175 and $250 range. So that's probably about right. But yeah, I had a discussion with the guys on one of the more recent currency roundtables about top pop notes. I'm not saying that this is a top pop, and to be honest, I never bothered to even check if it was a top pop. But do you see how an exceptionally high grade takes a note that everybody thinks is $20 or so and turns it into a note that's triple digits? So yeah, the grade does matter on the higher notes. I am probably going to be keeping my eye out for top pop notes just because nobody else is. That's number 5. Number 4. Speaking of a top pop, once again, I didn't check this to see if it was, but you're talking, this is a $10 1934C Federal Reserve star note. And look at that grade, 66 EPQ. Now, when you look at this, look at the borders. You see how those borders are pretty much even? Yeah, if this was even slightly off center, it wouldn't have gotten anything above a 64. So once again, that centering, the centering is the difference between a 64 and a 65. Whenever you have a note that's slightly off center, understand you're not going to get more than a 64 on it. This happens to be the wide, and if I remember, the wide has to do with what was it? Was it the amount of room here? I don't know. I couldn't tell a wide from a narrow, but there it is. The this particular note, the $10.34C, you can find these in grade, what was it, grade 20 for about $65. But this one in a 65 books out at $250, and this one's a 66. So at least $250 on this particular star. Now, as much as that sounds like it's a lot, keep that in mind. This is a 1934C graded 66, and it's $250. You're talking a note that's over 70 years old, graded better than most of the notes that are printed today, and it's only $250. When you think of how many of these were printed and how many survive, that's a microscopic number compared to today's. So if you're holding on to a star note from today expecting it to be worth hundreds of dollars, not in your lifetime. Sorry, not going to happen. Anyway, that's number 4. Number 3. I found these interesting. From the original series, the 1928 first year of small size notes, this is a $10 star note. The $10 star note from the first series, I mean, if you're going to collect stars, you might as well collect them from the beginning, with small size currency, of course. These are hard to come by. I mean, they didn't make a lot, and not many have survived. And that explains the price. Just flip it over so we can see the back real quick. Not in the greatest of condition. Maybe a 15, maybe a 20 because of what it is. They might give it a bump. The $10 1928 star note, this particular one, just check this out. Okay, in a grade 20, this note books out at about $400. Okay, in a grade 20. But so few of these were saved in good condition that if you can find one that in a 65, this note would be $7,500. Yeah, $7,500. So yeah, I'm quite happy that this one still books out at 400 in this condition. But once again, this note is almost 100 years old. This note is a star note, and even in this condition, it's worth $400. So once again, how long are you going to have to hold on to your modern star notes, especially when you considered how many modern star notes were printed compared to how few of these were printed? That one is number 3. Number 2. Here's the 20 from the same series. $20 star note from 1928. It's just cool to see that giant star like that. This one happens to be from Chicago. $20. This one has good color on the front, not so much on the back, which is why I always tell you guys, always check the back of the note too for condition, because all the damage and stuff stands out so much better on the back for some reason. On the front, this one has great eye appeal. In a grade 20, you're talking about $250 for a note like this. But if you can find one in a 65, you're talking $2,500. So yeah, another good starting point in the star collection. I would much rather see you guys fork out $250 for a note like this rather than spending $250 for a 2017, no matter, or a 2013. 2013, regardless of what Federal Reserve it happens to be from. So that one is number 2. And finally, number 1. You guys know how I feel about 50s. If you're going to collect something like stars, maybe you should collect stars on the rarest denomination you're going to find. I know 50s aren't exactly the rarest, but they are rare. When you get a $100 bill and break it, you don't break it for 250s, you break it for 520s. $50 bills are notoriously short printed because of that. So here is the 1928 $50 bill, and of course it's a star note. Take a peek at the back. Once again, you can get an idea of condition. It's got a little bit here, but you know something? I don't care. I know how rare these are. Ridiculously hard to come by. Even in a grade 20, this $50 bill books out at $1,250. If this note was a 65, you're talking $6,000. Now, I was amazed because the 10 books out higher than that, because the 10 is also a short printed denomination. When you spend a 20 and break it, more often than not, you're spending more than $10. So you're getting back a 5 and some singles. So they don't print as many 10s as they do anything else. That's why these are so short printed as well. This was, if it was perfect, you're talking 7,500. That's why this one's only 6,000. But anyway, that's a great breakdown of stars and a good idea of different values, the type of star notes you should be collecting versus paying money for modern stars. Don't pay money for modern stars. Just go to the bank and get them while you can. And even when they stop printing them, you can still find notes going back to 1963 in circulation. So just because they stop printing them doesn't mean you're not going to be able to find them in circulation. So yeah, do not pay for stars. You want to save them? Great. But don't pay for modern stars. Pay for the old ones. They aren't making any more of these, and there aren't many of these to begin with. All right, if you learned anything new, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading all your comments. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.